Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Radical Broccoli podcast. We are sipping herbal tea and eating white chocolate chip matcha cookies.
Homemade, gluten-free, organic, vegan. No, they're not vegan.
They are not vegan.
No.
Because they have butter. But they could be made vegan.
Could be vegan.
And with that being said, it's a good morning.
Yeah, very.
So we are ready for a new episode today.
Mm-hmm.
And we were discussing, what are the topics we want to share today. And we feel like it's been a while since we've talked about manifestation.
Yes.
And I feel like for both of us, we are such geeks. I mean,
for good reason.
If we have any spare time, or if we are looking for a new book, I don't know about you, but for me, that's the only thing I want to read about.
Yeah, I currently read about... Yeah, it's always about growth. Not specifically manifestation, but like how
But in the end, it really is, because it's about a certain outcome you're wanting to achieve.
I think it's about really reaching your highest potential within yourself.
Yeah.
And seeing how far you can grow and seeing how much you can unblock yourself and unfold your authenticity out into the world, how much you can overcome your own fears, your own challenges.
Just also out of curiosity,
how much can you create?
Yeah, what is really possible? What can we do with the time that we are so lucky to have here on Earth?
Yeah, and I think it brings such good perspectives to life, to why we are here. It always like sharpens in your view on life. It brings in gratitude, it brings in perspective, it brings in definitely a lot of purpose of connecting with other people, helping other people. It feels like an all, what's it called? Encompassing topic.
For sure. And we have...
And fun.
Yeah, and fun.
Yeah, and as you were saying, like, when you have spare time, what do you read about? I really remember we watched this Tony Robbins seminar. I think it's 2 years ago now. And we were right in between, with one foot in Radical Broccoli being purely sustainability and eco-friendly platform, and one foot in our self-development and self-growth universe, and we weren't sure which direction to take it in.
Yeah.
And then he asked the question, so if you're at a party on your free time and someone is talking about this topic and you just cannot resist to listen in and to jump in the conversation, what is the topic?
Yeah.
And then it was very clear to both of us that the topic is clearly self-growth, manifestation, overcoming your fears, everything that we're going to talk about today. And that is how the Radical Broccoli ship changed course. Not hugely, because it was always there in the background.
Yeah.
And it's also, sustainability is still the foundation. Because also in manifestation, you have to have sustainable growth, which is really interesting.
Yes. And manifestation is so much about authenticity. Yeah. And for me, it's not truly authentic to be living in sort of against nature.
No.
That for me would be a huge block. Then I feel like I'm not truly myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
which has brought us both to move countries, to change jobs, to end relationships, to make huge changes in life to get to this core of authentic living. And when you peel off more and more layers, for me, somehow life becomes simpler, but also still like, ooh, what more is there?
Yes, you want less. You need less.
You need less, but you can still create more.
All right.
I love this.
I love it that we're 4 minutes in and we're getting super deep.
Yeah, okay. So maybe we should introduce the topic of manifestation overall.
Yes. Okay, so today we're going to talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
And this is something I personally discovered when I was living in Copenhagen. I was 22 and studying in the university. And I feel that I was I always knew that, like, I was very creative. I always knew there was more. So I'm not shocked that I fell into it or discovered this.
I just fell.
I just fell with my face into it.
Stumble in, couldn't get out.
But it was the classic, The Secret.
The book.
The book, The Secret. And for me, as we already talked a bit about, manifestation is for me, it's just a co-creation with the universe, but it's setting an intention of something you want to create, you want to see, and then, of course, there's a process to it, but eventually it happens. And
sometimes not the way you think it will, often.
Which we will talk more about. And it's also, for me personally, it's about having this enormous trust in life. No matter what you're going through, you know that everything is happening for a higher reason. And that is something that I'm so grateful to have, because I do see a lot of people just falling into a negative spiral and staying there. And I'm thinking, wow, that looks so exhausting.
Oh, we've been there, both of us.
Yeah, but we never stayed there. That's the thing.
No, that's
you can be in it and go through it, but you always know there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you never give up, because you know somehow you will rise again.
This is such an innate, deep feeling within me, or I know we've had these conversations a lot, like when it gets really hard in one of our life, each
in my life.
In my life, or in your life, when we have these conversations, we often talk when it's really hard. Of course, we connect and we discuss and we try and help each other out. And to me, it's very clear that we both have this deep knowing where we actually are going, which is the reason we never give up. Even though it gets hard, even though curveballs are thrown, we go left and right, course correction, off the path, back again.
Sometimes even on your knees, like praying.
Yeah.
Help me.
Thinking, okay, I'm just going to give up on this whole plan. And then to make a little tweak, a little change, or actually to go through the lesson that you were supposed to learn, to then course correct and back on the path. So for me, that deeper sense of trust is based on a knowing or a feeling or a belief that all of these challenges are also happening for us to go through those things that unblock our highest potential, or that shows us our biggest fears right now, or where we are most blocked and limited with childhood beliefs or trauma that we need to heal. And it's always possible to heal.
So let's start just unpacking manifestation.
Yes.
In your words, what is your manifestation process? Like, let's say, because it's so big, it's so many layers to manifestation, but let's say there's something, you have a desire and you have no, like, okay, let me put it in other words. How do you manifest?
Okay, huge question.
Yeah.
I think that I use a combination of different methods, but I would say overall there's a little like step-by-step process. And one thing I have to mention with manifestation is that time is almost like throw it out of the window, or at least put so much more patience into the process than you think. And sometimes I have written down something that I would like to manifest, and it has happened. I'm like, in 3 months I want to do this. And then 2 years later, it has happened. And then you almost forget that was your manifestation in the first place. So time or patience is so important. And that's actually something that I'm really, really good at most often. Not always. But I think that I'm quite patient because I know that it's, And meanwhile, I'm just enjoying life. So I work a lot with lists. Actually, this morning, I was writing a list. of what I want to manifest in the next 6 to 12 months. And I broke it down into kind of bigger things and then smaller things. And within a sort of pushing the limits but believable list. Yeah. So with things that I know this will be stretchy for me, I need to grow. I need to become this version of me that creates these things. But not so much that it's completely unbelievable for my subconscious mind. So second thing to say about manifestation for me is that we manifest from our subconscious mind, not our conscious mind.
What does that mean?
That means that our conscious mind is what they say that you make maybe 5 to 10% of your choices in life. Thinking with your conscious brain, the brain that we are using right now when we're awake, when we're talking, we're conscious. And then we have the subconscious mind, which is everything that we don't really see and we don't really access unless we get really still, unless our brain waves get to a certain frequency, unless we are feeling safe in our nervous system. Our whole body is connected, right? So when we calm down, when we slow down, we go into hypnosis or meditation, for example, or also in our one-to-one sessions. This is how I work a lot with my clients. We work a lot with manifestation. It's
basically what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Unblocking, manifesting. We have to go there to the subconscious mind. And for many clients, for example, it's uncomfortable because they haven't done it before. They've never stilled their mind or never really fully been able to access that point of clarity from within. And to me, this looks like closing your eyes and either being guided by meditation or hypnosis or a sound or music, and actually letting yourself relax so much that you feel like you can totally drift away. And I like to be guided by meditation that can show me, for example, we can go back to childhood, if there's a childhood trauma, something that I want to unblock, or just ask myself questions. I also love to use parts work when it comes to manifestation to access like which part of me is feeling this block, which part of me is trying to, okay, let's give a very, very clear example. For example, if I said, I want to grow to the #1 podcast in Norway, then part of me could be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Woo! Let's manifest it, taking all the steps and the actions. And then another part of me could be just like freezing up by the point that I decided to do that. Absolutely freaking out because it has a story that says it's not safe to be seen. This story would come most often from childhood or teenage years. And the way that it protects us is almost in unseen ways. So if we don't go in and do this part work and do this subconscious work, we won't see that part of us that is freezing up. We'll only think like, oh, but I really want this. Why is it not working? Why am I self-sabotaging? Why am I procrastinating? Why is my voice starting to tremble when I'm on the podcast? Why do I not post that I've done the episode? Why do I not reach out to these people? All of these small actions in the day-to-day that we self-sabotage with, they are coming from that part that is frozen, that is scared, that is protecting us. And then we can go in and access and have a conversation with that part. And we can actually ask, are you willing to let me, Suzanne, today take over the steering wheel? Sometimes it says yes, sometimes it says, hell no, I'm going to grip onto this fear. Yeah. And then we need to do a little bit more work. And unblocking in this way is so incredibly powerful. And often we also free up lots of emotions that are blocked inside of our body, inside of our psyche. And when we do that, it brings up like old stuff that can go and release.
And I think that's a scary part for many. For example, when you start healing or you start realizing the traumas that happen in your childhood, for example, and you feel a sense of anger, unfairness, sadness, grief. So you can have, exactly like this manifestation. I want to be the #1 podcast in Norway. But you realize this frozen part comes from, I wasn't fully seen as a child, or my parents weren't present, and it wasn't safe to be myself, for example.
Yeah, and it can come from having, to me, I have this vision where I have drawn this drawing at home, and I think it's like busy and everyone's doing their stuff, and I'm like, look at my drawing, it's so beautiful, and like so proud. And then people are like, you and mom and dad just busy, you know, and no one is noticing.
Yeah, and that's a perception because that's how you saw the situation.
And then I internalized that whole story that my creations, they aren't valuable.
Yeah. And then when you start to sort of look at that and feel what that little girl felt, it can feel like almost death inside. So oftentimes when I start also working with clients, they go through this period of grief, and they're like, oh my gosh, does it ever end, you know?
Yeah.
Is this manifestation?
Yeah.
But that's the most releasing part.
Yeah.
And
So
allowing all of these feelings, old stuff, to just go out. And when it ends, it feels like you've gone through a cleanse.
yeah.
And the funny thing is that you almost forget what the problem was.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it doesn't exist anymore, that story. It's evaporated.
Yeah.
And a new story. And this is science. This is neuroscience.
Yeah.
You're creating a new pathway in your brain. So that old story, it doesn't exist anymore. And now you're creating, because you're becoming conscious of it, because you realize what you're doing, you can also take actions to implement this new story.
Yeah.
You have to practice this new story, but you are creating a new story.
Yeah, and also because you actually are healing the emotions and the whole scenario in a situation where you now are safe and held. And your nervous system feels relaxed. And that is what we do in our one-to-ones.
Yeah.
To give you the real full scoop details here.
And what is so incredible is that when you then start taking these actions, like putting out the podcast, you do it with a completely different energy.
Because your new neural pathway, as you're saying, is now created from a basis of a higher self-worth.
Yes. And when you put out things from this place, people listening, even if they don't even know why, they will find it so much more comfortable to listen.
Yeah.
You will just attract from a different place, and that's manifestation.
Yeah.
Because slowly and surely you will grow because you are in the sense of high self-worth.
Yeah.
And also you won't be scared to make those phone calls.
No, because you're not scared of the rejection in the same way before, because you've now gone and healed, and you saw that, wow, your creations from childhood, they actually were valuable. And maybe they weren't valued from everyone, but if you can value starting by yourself and your core people, boom, you can build a foundation.
Yes. And on top of that, I think one huge element in manifestation is to start to understand, like, why do you want the biggest podcast in Norway?
Yeah,
This
was an example, by the way. This is not on my on my manifestation list, but I have a really good example. Which,
yeah.
No, we can work on it.
And the thing is that it's always nice to know with yourself, like, why do I want this thing? Often you can want it because you want to be seen, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. For, like, it can be a very, very good thing to want to be seen.
Yeah.
So it's no use in putting like a negative story or a positive story on it, but it's just very good to be aware of why you want certain things.
Yeah.
And then the key, as I said, is detachment. Because when you start to realize that, oh, I want to be seen, and then you can just let go, because when you heal, you start to feel seen, and it just comes naturally. It isn't this push and pull, I have to have this. It's more of a, oh, I already have this. Everything comes to me. You just go into a completely different vibration. And when you detach from something, it is so much more easy to actually attract it. So when you every day go and you're like, oh, why don't I have this car? I need this car. Or, you know, when you have that energy, it's very hard to, it's like a force energy.
Yeah.
And I think that every single manifestation teacher, from the neuroscientists, the surgeons, to the spiritual teachers, they all have one thing in common that they always, always, always say, and that is that gratitude is the highest, most potent frequency that you can be on. So even to be grateful for, you know, the stage that you're at, to be grateful that you have discovered manifestation, you can always find something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And that puts your body into rest and digest mode, into a heart mode. And when you're in that space, that's when you can start to reach and attract your manifestations.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that space is that it's also called like heart and brain coherence. And that is also when our creativity becomes unblocked. So everything hangs together in this perfect design by the universe.
Yeah.
For us to be able to access that place. So going through the healing, first starting with the desire, then going through the healing, then accessing this new state of gratitude and the attachment, to be able to just download ideas and intuition and just know what you're supposed to do, and then of course aligned action. And bam.
Yes. It is, gratitude is just the number one tool of overcoming anything. Also because it gives your body this huge boost of, it physically changes your body.
Yeah.
It's like putting a flu shot in your body, except this is all natural, produced by your own cells.
That's so cool.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But I'm curious because I think that, you can watch all of these manifestation videos on YouTube, and you can, there's so much you can learn and consume, but sometimes it really seems impossible. And you actually really want this big thing out there. You really desire to be able to travel the world. You really desire to live in a foreign country, but all you feel is that it's impossible because right now I am here in my life.
Yeah.
So where do you even start?
You can start a few places. You can definitely start by having a little review of what you have manifested in your life so far. If you have already started the process consciously, or just seeing what you actually have created in your life, which decisions that you've taken that have led to which results, and do a little inventory, which builds this inner trust that you are able to create. And then I love to get inspired. I remember when I was living in Norway and all I wanted to do was live somewhere else. I was just watching YouTube of people living in different places, seeing how they felt, like really taking in that feeling of freedom, which is one of my core values, and resonating so much with that. So they were showing me the way. They were showing me what's possible, how it's possible to live, how it's possible to feel. And once I had seen that, my subconscious mind couldn't unsee it. So now I knew that it was possible. If it's possible for them, it's possible for me. And this is also something that we can use when we get envious or jealous, or we get like, oh, they have that, but I can't. Actually knowing that scientifically, if someone else has it, then we are able to create it too.
Especially if you have that feeling inside you when you see it, that
it's a desire.
It's a desire. That's when being envious is actually showing you what you truly, truly want. But maybe you're afraid to say that you want it.
Yeah.
Or you feel like you will never get it, or only they can do it.
Yeah.
But it's also telling you that's something that you truly desire.
Yeah, and this takes me back to working with parts, which is why I love that so much. It's because it's a bit confusing when we get jealous or envious, because we think that that voice that it's saying, no, it's not for us, that's the only voice. But there's also another voice, the authentic one, that says, this is something that I desire. And then the other parts come in, and they have fear, and they have blocks, and they're kind of telling you to shut up and like go back to your reality. So yeah, it's also good to break down, if it's a really, really big desire, to break it down into smaller parts so that it's not so overwhelming. For example, if you want to move, how about starting with travel for 2 weeks to the place that you're curious about, to see, to actually live in that reality that you want to create, just for a little while, so that you can actually fully have a feeling of it. And then I also absolutely love to use visualization to go into your inner world and create there, because then you create in the energy field first, and then you can start taking the steps slowly but surely, and also healing all the blocks that are keeping you from doing the thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to mention that it's very, very much of a personal process. It's each and everyone have authentic, or as I believe, I think we have these very specific, authentic dreams and visions for our life that are just for us. And I know that sometimes people are challenged by being in a relationship, the other person doesn't want the same thing, or trying to convince other people to like come along on your idea. And I just want to say, like, it's best for everyone if you just focus on your own life, stay in your own lane, and know that you will inspire people by the bravery of truly daring to live your life to the fullest. And I want, if I can have a big intention with this episode, it is to remind you that it's now that we are living. Like, you listening right now, it's no time to waste on living in the life of worry, of being miserable, of thinking that it's a hustle, of living in like hustle culture, never having enough time, always being miserable, and looking around and thinking that that's how everyone has their life. That's so not true.
There's nothing really good coming out of it.
Nothing good coming out of it. Not easy to take care of ourselves, our relationship, not easy to be in our hearts, not easy to, we can't even access our creativity from that point because we're so much in fight or flight mode. And the nervous system can't get into rest and digest, where actually the brain fluids are flowing in the way that your creativity opens up.
And more companies are seeing the research. I mean, there's even an own manifestation doctor at Stanford University, one of the best university in the world. So big companies are starting to realize this, and they're offering more, meditation, mindfulness. But I don't know if they will ever reach the point where people are fully allowed to be themselves, because you will always follow a certain type of culture at work. But then again, we're also unique. For some of us, we are here to fully embrace that kind of job, that kind of living situation, and that will make you truly happy. But we're all just so different.
I'm not saying that everyone's supposed to do the same thing. That's so not true. But I'm just saying that we are not meant to live in survival mode, in worry, in stress. And of course, I know that across the world there is terrible things happening. There's wars, there's catastrophes, in which certain people are highly, highly affected. That is not like what we are.
But that's the beauty of this whole process, because it can literally heal the world.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. And I have studied war. I have a master's degree in war.
Yes.
And it's all about human beings.
Yeah.
I wrote my master dissertation on nuclear weapons, and why do we still have nuclear weapons? What purpose do they serve to this day? And I looked at the politics, at the economics, at the history. And even in these huge topics, it all comes down to people.
Yeah. And their childhood trauma. Honestly.
And it's so interesting because even in this huge complex topic such as war, it is so layered. There are so many different drivers. There's so many different, you have the start, you have the middle, you have the end, and there's so many different things that drives each stage. But it is all human driven. So the thing that I say, that's such a huge cliche, but it's true, because healing, when you heal yourself, when you start to see how you can raise children that are safe, that are compassionate, that feel that they are allowed to express their emotions, to understand, to just grow up feeling safe, basically. It is the most powerful way that you can start to heal the world. And this is also one thing that Joe Dispenza talks about, is how powerful meditation is. It can change the electromagnetic frequency in a room, in a town, in a building, and they've measured this with machines.
Yeah.
So I don't remember which book I read, but they were talking about, there was a what's it called, where the monks live? Monastery? And I think they moved the monastery to a town where they had very high criminal activity.
I remember this.
And after they had stayed there for a duration of time,
Meditating, right?
Meditating
for peace,
the crime rates went down.
Yeah.
So it is so easy to think that the way to change the world is to make sure other people change and care more about what other people do and how they should do things differently.
And how they are wrong.
Yeah, how they are wrong and they are the bad guy. But in reality, the way I see it is it all comes back to how you behave. And we have to take so much accountability, because as long as we have wars within ourselves, we will have wars. Then we will have wars in the external world. So with our sort of inner battles, we are still contributing to chaos, which is something I think about when I'm really strict with myself, or when I'm, in a very negative spiral, that is actually not even contributing to anything good inside of me or outside of me. And then there is one of, I think, what people find the most challenging about manifestation is that as of right now, your life is 100%. And in order for something new to come in, you have to deconstruct and destroy something that is already in your life. Meaning, you cannot manifest your dream job if you're gonna stay in your current position and not do anything about it in that way.
Not take any risks.
Not take any risks. So something needs to go before something new can come in. And I think this is where most people stop the process, because it's so scared to live in the unknown.
And can you give us an example if someone is like, oh, I know that you work with a lot of people creating businesses, for example. And if they come to you and they ask you, oh, but I really want to create this business, but I need the income from my old job. I need to keep going there. But here's where I want to go. What do I do?
That is such a good example that I think all of them face.
Yes.
So the way I work with it is that, I can first share my personal experience. I took the jump without a plan, quit my job, created a company just with complete faith that this is going to be a full-time job. And never a doubt in my mind. But it was very hard on the nervous system. It was such a hard path. And I think I now see that it can be done through a higher sense of self-worth, where you can give yourself the grace and compassion to do it in a softer, more gentle way. So it's about raising your self-worth, most importantly, while taking the steps. And you have to, at some point, face risk and uncertainty, but you can have a budget. You can sit down and actually see, how much do I need to survive 3 months without my old job and while I'm creating my new job. And then the brain can go into problem-solving mode, which is so much more relaxing for it to do than, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow and just go into it and then get super stressed, I have to sell. And then you come up with this pushy energy, and you just get stressed out.
And all the creativity just dies. And you're like, what was my idea again?
Yeah. So I literally work with creating safety inside the bodies of my client, and to look at what is the root, why have you put yourself in the position where you're in a job that you don't love? What is the fears with quitting? And 10 out of 10, it's fear of what one of the parents would say, even if they don't necessarily say it, but it's just that fear. And it can show up as, no, I'm mostly worried about what my boss would say, but under there, it's a worry of what daddy would say, for example.
Yeah.
And
Daddy.
daddy. or mom. It's all different. And this fear is no joke because it can feel life-threatening.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
It can feel so intense that it can keep us stuck in a place we don't love for 5 years. That's how intense that fear is.
Yeah. Do you remember that you had that fear?
Yes.
Which parent, or do you remember both?
When I started with manifestation, I manifested to go to King's College. And as you know, I was no A student. I didn't even like school.
You didn't even apply on time?
I did to
the
the
last
school.
day, actually.
Yes.
The last day you were like, oh shit, I think it's a deadline today.
Yes.
And you rushed everything.
But I did this with manifestation. I knew I would come in. And I came in. And that led me on a career path that went really well. But it wasn't my true authentic self. So why did I want that? And why did I take this career path? It was to be validated by my parents and feel like I was doing good.
Yeah.
According to them. And I didn't ever ask myself, what do I truly want? And also because I didn't know myself. I didn't know. I didn't even know I could ask myself that. I didn't know it was an option.
No.
Didn't know you can choose.
Here's what you should do.
Yeah. So it took me 2 years. I've said this so many times on the podcast, but it took me, or 1 whole extra year in that job to quit because I was so scared of what my parents truly would say, and also because they did say it was a really bad idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because I was scared of what they said, it was because I listened to what they said.
Yeah, of course.
And
that's not to blame them.
No, not at all. It is the biggest learning and the best learning I have ever had.
Yeah, it's when you learn that you are grown up.
Yeah, and that fear also showed up in my coworkers. For example, having a fear of what they would say and their opinion about going from this serious career, safe working in the government, or staten, as we say, and suddenly talking about manifestation and cooking recipes online, you know?
Yeah.
It seemed so, like suddenly I identified as a blogger or like you're an influencer, and it was so light and it wasn't that
easy.
Yeah. And yeah, so as time went by and I left that environment that constantly reinforced this old belief that I had to live life a certain way,
And that it had to be so hard.
it evaporated. And when I became ill from staying in an environment that was bad for me, depressed, sick, doctors saying, you know, you have chronic fatigue, you have to live your rest of your life being miserable.
Oh my God.
And what basically was missing from my life was being happy, doing things that made my soul happy, knowing and trusting that you are here for a reason, allowing myself to be me, to be weird and strange and everything that I am, and compassionate, and you know, I have such a good ability to see other people, and I would hide all of this from the world if I didn't dare to take that risk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean by this huge design by the universe coming together. Like, if you stay a certain way for a long time that you know you're not meant to, or you don't feel happy, it's gonna take a toll on your body, on your mental health, then on your relationships, until you finally decide to make a change that you are meant to make, because you are meant to do something that is also have a huge impact on other people. We all have gifts that are affecting other people, and that is how society kind of comes together.
And you wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't believe it.
No, that's true. Yeah, But
And
it's so different for everyone. That's the thing.
yes.
Some people would thrive in that job that you had and like, wow, this is my true passion in life. But then you wouldn't also feel all of those
Then you wouldn't feel bad.
the negativity, the desire to do something completely different. So it's all about listening to yourself and truly following your own path. And
And then there's the fun and more lighter part of manifestation, which I think is probably more fun to begin with. And that is starting to build up your trust muscle and starting to... Because the most important thing in all of this is to getting to know yourself. Because without that, then you will just try to manifest things that... I mean, I could try to manifest something that was good for you, but in reality it wasn't really something that's for me, you know? Because you get confused. We spend so much time together. And maybe I just didn't really know myself. So I think the fun, easy, light part of manifestation is starting to get to know yourself. And by that you can start to manifest these smaller things. And that's also a way to build your self-worth.
Yeah.
So what are some of the fun things that you have manifested where you're just, you know...
Oh, I manifested so many random things.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you're just laughing a bit. You're like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, I remember specifically meeting like this celebrity crush that I had in Norway. And then suddenly like we were there together at an event taking pictures together. It was just so random.
Yeah.
Or a text from a guy manifested.
Yeah.
Like that was how we played around a lot in that period.
Yes, for sure.
It's a lot about guys and texts. And
yeah. I remember watching YouTube videos. How to manifest a text from
within,
a guy in 1 minute.
We figured it out.
It works.
Not in 1 minute though.
But do you really want a text from that guy where you have to manifest a text from him?
No. That was all just playing around. It was super silly, but it was fun. Until it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what I mean with the fun light part. Like, start experimenting.
Yeah, but I was thinking about a huge manifestation for us as a company. It's like having Apple as our partner.
Yeah, that's always something that I feel... Thank you, universe.
Yeah, and it's not something that we did a huge process on, but it was definitely on the list of our top partners. We wrote it down, and then we kept going on our path, and then they contacted us.
And what's so cool is that they contacted us after we took this scary move of going out of this complete sustainability into just being ourselves.
Yeah. And also after a big decision that we made to not become part of this management house, I think.
Yes.
So I often feel like I get rewarded for the risks. And
always.
It's like, here, now you get this. And we've always manifested very easily products and gifts and things that get sent to us as a company. And then we have other things that are harder to manifest because we have so many blocks. And the funny thing, when you come together as a company like me and Annette do, it's both of our processes, right? Yeah. So it's next level. Not saying that it's harder. It's sometimes it can get easier. Sometimes it's a bit more challenging because it's two people's...
Who is blocking this right now?
Exactly.
It's your fault that we're not bringing in this manifestation.
So then we use a lot of blame and shame and guilt tripping until we find out
always blame
whose
the other
fault, whose fault it is. And then you leave.
Exactly. It's all about blaming. The less responsibility you take, the easier you manifest.
The easier it is.
Yes. So yeah. No, but there's been so many fun incidents. And yes, in the beginning it was all about dates and guys. And getting into schools.
Yeah. And then you grew up and it was more about career and purchasing your own house.
But in the end you realize all of it is just the more fun you can have and the more light you can make it.
Yeah. The less serious you can take everything, the easier.
Just let go. And I find that the universe will not test you. I don't believe in tests, but it will just show you where you're currently not being truly authentic yourself. and just pokes in on you, checks like, are you sure? Are you sure right here? That can be a little hard, but of all the complete breakdowns and hard times, have always brought me to a much better place than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, exactly. And that also refers back to your last episode, which I think everyone should listen to if you haven't yet, about rock bottoms, because that's a very, very, very potent place for manifestation.
It is.
Yeah, it's when you truly get to know yourself. You strip away everything. Like, you know that you're only going one way from there.
And after you go through a really hard time, you're so grateful for everything you took for granted before.
Yeah.
And
that can sometimes be the lesson in itself.
Yes. I feel that I was in a place of, I need to fix this in my apartment, or I need to have this, or I need. And now I'm like, I'm so content with just, everything can just be. I'm just happy existing.
Exactly.
And it's just such a nice place to be. I can't even tell you. Like, I've never been in this exact place where I am now. I think it's the best place I've been in my life. Yeah. And all of that happened after this huge cleanse of so much gunk, which was so hard. But was it really that hard, or was it hard to sit with the emotions that came out through it?
Yeah.
If you take it even deeper.
That's usually where we resist. It's because we don't want to feel. And it's because we never learned to feel in our childhood. It's as simple as that, and as hard as that.
And as my son has taught me, I always check in with him and I feel him, like, what is he feeling? It's so easy as a mom, I think, to intuitively just, it's like you zoop, you know, like the avatars, like you connect with your children.
Yeah, you just plug the umbilical cord in.
Yeah, you plug in and you feel, aha, this is what's going on. Yeah. But then I realized I never do that with myself. Like, do I ever ask myself how I'm feeling? And now I have, I sit a lot in the car back and forth to kindergarten, and I enjoy it so much because it's my time to check in. How am I feeling? Am I sad about this? Am I angry about that? And just sit there and I allow it to come up. Yeah. And it's the first time in my life I truly allow myself that. And it feels nice.
So important. Yeah, that's often where our biggest fears lie, is like, what am I going to feel when I experience X? And that fear in itself can hold us back from doing so many things. But it's never too late to learn that it's safe to feel. I'm still learning this every single day. My son is teaching me. I'm showing myself. Teachers. They are the biggest teachers ever. And yeah, every day is a school day, as my father-in-law says. I love that saying.
Except I don't really like school, but...
No, but every day is an opportunity to learn. Yeah. That's what it means.
Yeah. I completely agree. Every day is new opportunities, and it's all about how you approach them.
Yeah, how do you embrace life? And how much do you value yourself, your time here in this very body? And what do you want to do with it?
And I feel like the more things you have been through, the less you start to care about everything that you thought was important.
Yeah, the less you start to grip. That grippening just softens. And that's the law of the attachment, which brings more fruitful manifestations.
It is the best place to be, to not be wanting so much.
Yeah. But I know that it can be hard, because you feel like your whole life depends on you creating that thing. It's very common with money, and I know that I feel that a lot for myself, like a certain income level or a certain amount of income, of course, because technically, like physically, you need to cover a certain amount of bills and have a certain amount to pay X, Y, and Z. So that's where it's really, really hard to detach sometimes. But it's possible.
Yes.
And we can also drift in and out. But I think this is enough for today.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what is your top 3 tips to anybody who wants to start manifesting?
Oh, I have so many more than top 3 tips. But I think number 1 has to be truly get to know yourself. Know your human design, know your astrology. If you don't care about that, don't worry. Find other ways to know it. It's just great tools. Travel, meet people, be in contrast, know what pisses you off, know what makes you happy, know which people bring you energy and not, know which activities light you up and not. There's so many ways to get to know ourselves. Like you and me, we have done all kinds of readings and everything, and I think everything has added to that piece of just like, wow, this is me.
Yeah.
So that's my number 1, because from that you can authentically know what you want to manifest. And if your manifestation list is true to you, or if it's just something that somebody else or that you thought you wanted. Tip number 2 is then creating your list and crafting it and checking if this is true for you. And then number 3 is like a combination of heal, unblock, release your emotions, and take aligned action.
Amazing.
Yeah. Any last words for today?
Yes, I would just say have fun with it. The
Yeah.
more fun and joy you have,
The better.
The better.
And are you available for one-to-ones before Christmas?
Yes, I am. I think I have space for three clients.
Yeah, amazing.
And
it's 6 weeks until Christmas now.
yes. So what you can do is to reach out on either Instagram or email or through our website.
Everything will be linked in the description below.
And I usually have a call with everybody I work with to see that it's 100% match.
Yeah.
And from there we start to create. It's
Yeah.
so fun.
And I have space for 1 more as it is right now. But soul readings I can also make space for. Probably before Christmas a few. So reach out for all of those things and know that after Christmas all of our prices will increase. So it's a great time to get in now if this feels like it's calling you.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting. It's the best work in the world.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening. Wishing you a beautiful day. Don't guilt yourself. Don't shame yourself for anywhere that you are at. Just start from here. Light, soft steps. Take self-care along the way. And sending you so much love.
Namaste.